Small minds discuss people, average minds discuss events, and great minds discuss ideas is a saying by Eleanor Roosevelt that's generally meant to encourage the level of thoughtfulness among the public. It's meant for our conversations to be more impactful and meaningful instead of just spreading gossip about all these social events and political figures that essentially doesn't account to anything. However, saying that only small minds or average minds are what discuss people and events is kind of harmful because it shows that ideas are really all that matters and that these ideologies is what we should be focusing on. And I feel like that is something that the quote doesn't really excel at. So in order to really digest this, first we need to see what the quote is really trying to say. And then from there, we can talk about, what people and events really, like how do people and events really develop ideas? Because that's kind of what the quote is getting at. And then from there, we can see that only talking about ideas out of context is actually harmful in the great span of things. So, what does the quote really mean? I think it's trying to show that people and events are on their own not really impactful. When you're just talking about what a political figure is doing or a recent event in just the general span of, just kind of how we typically talk about it, it can discourage meaningful thought about what's really going on. If people are just talking about the president and not really discussing how that needs to change and what we can do to change it, then it's going to be pretty shallow conversation that only causes discourse. But when we focus more on ideas and how, the president could do something or what we as a society need to focus on, certain ideologies of the past or how other thing works, and really expand our knowledge and thinking, then it creates a more suitable and more expanded way of thinking about these things. But the problem is that talking about people and events are what develop ideas. So if we just are not even talking about people or events, and we're saying that only small or average minds talk about people and events, then what ideas are there to talk about? If we focus so much on these ideologies, then we're not realizing that different people and events are what develop the general perception of things. So people and events, like, once again, the president or, a shooting or something, talking about those brings in the ideas, brings in that, here's how we can fix this. And that all comes back to the person, or that all comes back to the event. So saying that only talking about ideas is what the quote sounds like. It sounds like it's saying that ideas are talked about by great minds, then that's leaving out a fundamental part of the equation. So why would talking about ideas out of their context be bad? Well, if we talk about ideas out of their context, then it's really useless. If people talk about socialism or communism sometimes and argue about how these, political and governments, how they work, then arguing about them doesn't lead to anything. It's just, once again, as people argue about presidents, arguing for the sake of arguing. If we argue about ideas and how we think about things with how other people think about things, then it's all bringing back to people and events, the pettiness that we're trying to get away from in the first place. Back, when Eleanor Roosevelt was, alive and coming up with these things, it would have been less common for ideas to be spread this way. But because of the internet, sometimes these ideas generally form the idea of a person, where it's a person could have all of the ideas, or this idea basically embodies a specific person you think of. So you're arguing against these ideas, but it's not, or you're arguing against these people, but it's really these ideas that you associate with them. So it's really important to not get caught up too much in ideas, because generally talking about people events, and ideas are all of the same importance. If we don't talk about all of them, then no matter what, we're missing a fundamental part of the equation. No matter what, we're really missing out on thoughtful and meaningful conversation. You have to have each of them, or, just events or ideas or people or ideas. You have to have a mix of them to form a meaningful opinion about something. Thank you.